We are continuing to talk about quadratic functions and graphing them. There is one thing I want to look at from your homework from yesterday. Whenever you have your value, so make sure you don't miss the maximum minimum. So we know this one is a minimum. The vertex is at 0, 2. We have no solutions, roots, or zeros because it doesn't cross the x-axis. So we would put none or NA anytime that happens. On number 4, it goes through 2 times. So we have 2 solutions or zeros, and we would list those out. You can list them as points, like this would be 3, 0 and 5, 0. Or you can write x equals 3, x equals 5. Either one of those would be correct. Then our y-intercept, we can't actually see it on the graph, but for our y-intercept, we know that x equals 0, and we want to know what is y. So one way of doing that would be plug in 0 for x, and this zeroes out, 0 minus 0 plus 30. So our y-intercept is actually at 30. So 0, 30. We can also use our calculator to find that. We would go to y equals, plug in the equation, graph it, and here we can't see it either, but we could go to the table of values, would be one way to look at it. When x is 0, what is y? 30. Or we could go to calculate, second trace, which is calculate, and find a value. So I selected the first one when x is 0, and it tells me what y is. So you'll have to do that also on number 8. You'll have to put this into y equals and find out where it actually crosses that y-axis for our y-intercept. Okay, so we are moving on. We are going to finish slide 8. So this is my algebra. I need to go to my pre-AP one. So slide 8, we need to finish the example 2. So let's zoom in on example 2. And we are given an equation or a function, and we're asked for axis of symmetry. So I'm going to use my composition book. So open your composition book up. And we are going to write this graphing quadratics. I'll show you mine in just a minute. Slide 8. And we are on number 2. So the first thing we're asked for is the axis of symmetry. So we need to identify what our A, B, and C are. So our A value is the coefficient of x squared. So it's 1. Our B value is our coefficient of the x. And our C value is our constant term. So in order to graph these, we need to know first our axis of symmetry. So let's look over at our formulas. Axis of symmetry is negative b over 2a. X equals negative b over 2a. So we are going to write AOS for axis of symmetry. And write our formula. X equals negative B over 2A. So this would be negative and then negative 2 because it's negative and then whatever B is. B is negative 2. So negative, negative 2 over 2 times 1. The negative negative is going to cancel out. So we have 2 over 2, which equals 1. So our axis of symmetry is at X equals 1. So let's go back over to our example here. So axis of symmetry, let's go ahead and write X equals 1. And then drag this axis of symmetry line over there so it's on 1. Okay, now the vertex is going to be, when you plug in X, what is the output Y? So vertex plug in the axis of symmetry, X equals 1, and find Y. And you're plugging it into our original function. Our original function is Y equals X squared minus 2X minus 6. So Y equals, X is 1, so 1 squared, keep it in parentheses, minus 2 times 1, minus 6. So Y equals 1 minus 2 minus 6. I'm just going to put that in the calculator. 1 minus 2 minus 6. Negative 7. So our Y value is negative 7. So a vertex is a point, the point where it changes direction. So it's at 1, negative 7. That's our vertex. Let's go back over here. 1, negative 7. We need to plot a point at 1, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Plot that point. Okay, the next thing we are asked to find is our Y-intercept. Y-intercept is when X equals 0, what is Y? Or find Y. So I would write my equation, plug in a 0.
Any students traveling with the track team today, please make your way out to the gym. Thank you.
So I would plug in 0. So 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 6. Anything with the X value turns into 0, so you're just left with Y equals negative 6. So our Y-intercept is when X is 0, Y is negative 6. I need to get another point. And and put that on the y-axis at -6. All right, before we go into domain, range, and solutions, remember that quadratic functions have that axis of symmetry, which means they're the same on both sides. So if I know this point, I can mirror this point. I can reflect it. Do y'all remember learning about reflections? If this point is 1 unit away from the axis of symmetry, we go 1 unit to the other side. So grab another point, because we want this to be completely graphed. Put another point on the other side of that mirror or axis of symmetry. There we go. Okay, so I know it looks like that, but I want to find one more point. So I'm going to plug in a value to find that next point over. So my x value would be 1, 2. So I've already gotten a point when x is 2. So I want to go to 3 because that would give me a point here that I could reflect. Usually you want, let's say 5 points in order to graph it. So we are going to find another point. Why am I saying let's find the point when x is 3? Why would I not just say let's go to -1 or let's go any other number? Do y'all know why I picked 3? Do what? Yeah, it's the next one over. It's the next point over in that parabola because it's going to go something like this, but I'm not sure exactly how it's going to look. So that's why I picked 3 because we know 0, 1, and 2. So let's go one more over to the 3. So we'll plug in 3 for x. So this would be y equals 3 squared is 9 minus 2 times 3 is 6 minus 6. Or you can just put this top one in the calculator. So 9 minus 6 minus 6. Remember I put that in, I got -3. So my next point that I have is when x is 3, y is -3. So let's plot that next point over. So over to 3 and down to 1, 2, 3. And then I can mirror that point to find a point on the other side. So it's 1, 2 units away from my axis of symmetry. Now I go 1, 2 on the other side. So now we can see the shape. Before we couldn't. And as you're drawing these by hand, make sure that you make a gradual increase, decrease right here instead of making it look like a V. Make it look like a U. So let's grab our parabola. I think there's one over here, right? I'm just going to use this. Control C, Control V, pull it down. And then extend it out. There. All right, let's look at domain and range. So domain for quadratics, if there's no restrictions, it's all real numbers. And our range is how far down does it go? What's our least amount on this one? It's actually -7, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So y has to be greater than or equal to -7. I'm going to underline it. Okay, give the maximum or minimum. What do we have? It's a minimum, so I'm going to circle it. It's going to be, yeah, the value is -7. How many solutions or x-intercepts are there? How many places does it cross the x-axis? 2. Can we find what they are? Looks like it's here and here, but I'm not 100% on that, so I'm going to put in my calculator because I may have done my graph a little off. So y equals x squared minus 2x minus 6. Graph it. Oh, it does not go through. So what we can do is we can actually have our calculator do it. We can calculate our zeros. So do second trace. Y'all should be doing this with me. So I put it into y equals. We're going to go to 0 because that's what we're trying to find. And we want to go to the left side of one of the zeros. So see how the 0 is here? So the left is actually above. I'm going to push enter. Then I'm going to go to the right side, which is actually below, push enter. Guess enter. It's at -1.645. So it's not at a whole number, but we can still find it using the calculator. So I'm going to show you it again, but I'm going to find the other one. So I'm going to go back to my graph. I'm going to do second calculator, second trace, my 0, and I want to go to the left side or left bound of the other 0. So I'm going to have to go around to the other side. So my other 0 is somewhere around here. My left bound on this one is actually below, so I push enter. My right bound is actually above. Enter, guess, enter. 3.645. So it was -1.645 and +3.645. So I'm going to have you write those down also. And your assignment is going to be slide 9. So I will, y'all will do that on your own.